Good evening. I'd like to call the regular scheduled Board of Education meeting for December 14th to order. It is 6:01, Ms. Pearl, and I will turn it over to Mr. Hosey for the invocation and pledge allegiance.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this day, Father, and for your many wonderful blessings. Please just continue to bless and guide us in all we do to the glory of your name. Forgive us our sins. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Hosey. All right, that brings us down to number 3 for the Spotlight on Glynn County with Ms. Tate.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
3 Glynn County school students are in the running this year to earn the National Merit Scholarship recognition and scholarships. The National Merit Scholarship Corporation recently announced that Liam Nunn of Brunswick High and Nolan Hartley and James Mallett, both of Glynn Academy, are among 16,000 semifinalists in this year's National Merit Scholarship Program. Tonight, they are here to share with you some of their future plans for after high school.
Hello, everybody. I'm Liam Nunn from Brunswick High School. I guess after graduation, I'm planning to go to Georgia Tech. I got admitted there last Saturday through early action.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
I'm planning to go for a degree in civil engineering. It's just a way to help the community. I find infrastructure really fascinating. It's something I really want to continue learning about. I also applied to MIT through early action. I'm really hoping to hear back from them soon. I think Saturday. So when I hear back about that, but that's my plans for after graduation.
Good luck, that's awesome.
Yes, congratulations.
Ms. Sams wants to know if you play tight end.
My name is Nolan Hartley. I go to Glynn Academy. So my plan for college, I want to go into either a degree in kinesiology or exercise medicine. I haven't fully narrowed down a college yet, but I've received a few great offers from University of Georgia, Mercer University, and the University of Central Florida. And I actually just heard back today from Augusta University. And then I plan to go into their medical program there and then go into, hopefully, to work on my doctorate in physical therapy.
Yeah, congratulations, awesome.
Hi, I'm James Millett. I go to Glynn Academy, and I have been admitted to UGA and Georgia Tech, but I haven't decided on where exactly I want to go. Undergrad-wise, I'm not quite sure yet, but I know I want to go into law, and I plan on going for that. Grad-wise, that's my plan for after graduation.
Good luck.
Yeah, congratulations.
Come back, bring them all back in. Come back in, guys. All right, tell us who came here with you tonight.
It was just me. I came
Okay.
just after this. I'm going to help with Nebo Middle School. They're having their concert at BHS tonight.
That's right.
So the band's volunteering with that.
Good.
My parents and my sister.
And my parents are here as well.
Congratulations.
Thank
Good luck to all y'all.
Ben is playing the drums at Negro tonight, so it's going to be interesting.
Good. Congratulations.
Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tate.
Thank y'all for being here.
Congratulations. All right, that brings us down to citizens address the board. There was no one signing up, so we'll move on to number 5, approval of the agenda. Excuse me, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Holsey,
Second.
second by Ms. Gibbons. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, that brings us down to number 6, a consent. I would like to consent 7, 8, 9, 10A, B, C1, D, 1, 2, 4, 7. Is there any policy, John? Nothing? Also consent 10E. All right. Any additions or deletions to the consent? Okay. Hearing none, I'll read back through them. The first is number 7, approval of the November 4th, 2021 work session meeting minutes. 8 is approval of the November 9th, 2021 regular board meeting minutes. 9 is approval of the 2022 board meeting dates. 10A, under the superintendent's report, is personnel. B is field trips. C1 is the good report on the facilities committee. D is the finance committee, and 1 is approval of the MOA for coastal soccer outreach. 2 is approval of the St. Simon's Elementary easement agreement. 4 is approval of the GMP for Golden Isles Elementary kitchen renovations. 7 is approval of the surplus items, and E was the policy. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Make the motion.
Motion made by Ms. Gibbons. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Dr. Urigan. All those in favor? It's unanimous. That'll bring us down to the superintendent's report, item number 3.
Number 3, Mr. Blackerby. You gonna pull it up?
Question, or you just want me to review later?
I was going to review it, and I guess my main question was just to make sure this is just basically to set the ball rolling so they can do some more research and put some plans together to bring to us, correct?
Yeah, what I anticipate we would need to do is, I don't think they want to do any legwork as far as doing any more surveys or any more planning until they had a go-ahead from the school system. But before any work actually started, I would think we need to have an MOU or a contract of some sort that's approved before moving forward. They, at this point, this is their proposed easement, but yeah, obviously there's some legalities before it's officially granted. The only other feedback I've had since Thursday night was I did receive an email from someone from Roberts Engineering that just said if there were any questions about scheduling or anything, said that they would definitely do any work surrounding this in the summer months to avoid any disruption to the school.
Does the board have any questions or concerns with it? I mean, I know we discussed it at length on our Thursday meeting, but I guess my main question was just what the timing was, because they're going to do it in the summer. I was worried about
And it definitely wouldn't be this summer, I would think, but I would assume, and I don't know how quick they can get all their planning and approvals. I'm not even sure where they stand on this as far as countywide approvals or joint water sewer approvals. There's other things that have to be in this process, and knowing how things have gone on some other projects that I was a part of, sewer main equipment is not easy to come by right now, so this would be a lengthy endeavor for them anyway.
So I guess I'm okay, as consensus of the board to move forward, but I mean, that could change if, the MOU is. Right. We could always break down, you know what I mean? I'm fine with moving forward. I think in good faith, they can move forward and we can start negotiations about it, but,
Yeah.
I don't see any reason at this point
Yeah.
to stop it.
Yeah, my only concerns or the questions that I'd already asked them was, whatever the agreement is, it needs to be laid out in there that they repair anything that's damaged, and their property is restored to the same condition it is right now. And basically, we have no loss at all in the process.
I would assume also they'd do whatever studies they would have to do to show what kind of impact. I mean, I'm assuming it wouldn't have any negative impact on our system. What I worry about is the overloading the system at
Right.
our piece. So.
That's a good question that would need to be asked. Yes, exactly. Because from that, I'm not familiar enough with the way the sewer's laid out. There's as to which direction of the stream we're flowing in right there. So that's a good question. But knowing what we're going through right now still at Altama Elementary, my feelings are that joint water sewer is going to make them, I would hope, just as they're making us, take care of any flow issues that occur.
All right.
Well, any future issues too, like who would, I mean, this is a crazy question, I guess, who would own the sewer line, if you will? You know, who would be responsible for maintenance on our property, but it's granted an easement, but joint water sewer, you know, who would be responsible if it had a main line break, whatever?
My assumption,
Between the road
this
and
is
our-
truly an assumption. My assumption is between the manhole and the road, or the manhole and the lift station,
Right.
would be the responsibility of joint water sewer, or the developer. Typically, we don't control anything between the manhole and the road.
Okay.
That's kind of the dividing line usually. And that manhole is right behind the one they're tying into is right behind the kitchen.
So I guess we're just basically asking for approval to move forward and begin the process of writing the MOU.
All right.
Yeah.
Can I get a motion?
So,
Motion by Ms. Gibbons to move forward with that. Second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Yerrigan. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Assuming there was no further discussion. Sorry.
so I'll communicate with them, but then anything that I get going forward, I'll make sure I copy you on.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. All right, next I have Mr. Waters, athletic uniform and equipment.
Okay, I think everybody's got basically a brief sheet here that we put in your packets, but every 5 years, we put out a bid for athletic apparel, uniforms, and equipment. The last 5 years, we've been using BSN Sporting Goods out of Texas, and their contract comes up this year and will expire June 30th. So we sent out proposals in November, late October, early November, and they were due back early December. So we went through everything, and basically, it was a pretty tough decision. BSN came in under what these two companies that I'm giving you today, which surprised me. But we've been kind of dissatisfied with BSN, even though I know the supply chain is struggling nationwide, and you can't get a lot of things. I mean, we still haven't gotten footballs for this year, so there's a lot of things that you just can't get right now. But I don't blame that on them, but just the customer service has been really bad lately. Our coaches haven't gotten return phone calls on things they need, and that's been going on for about a year and a half. So even if they would have come in ahead of the other two, we would have had some issues. And Rhonda Saunders, who works with me, has been very dissatisfied with her customer service end too. But thankfully, we had two really good bids from Pro Sports out of Atlanta and Baker Sports out of Jacksonville. While we've been dealing with BSN the last 5 years, I've been able to do a little research on both of these companies, and they're both very quality companies. But at the end of the day, it comes down to customer service, and it also comes down to the dollar and how much we can profit as a school system athletically. And Baker Sports really comes out ahead of Pro Sports. They just offer a lot of little things, small things that really make a big difference in a school system like ours. So basically, if you go through the numbers here and add everything up, I think the word credit was put in there somehow. Credit's probably bad. I think value is probably the best word, and the value over a 5-year period, starting July 1st going through 2027 for Baker Sports, came out to about $465,000 versus $380,000 for Pro Sports. So we're asking the board to approve a 5-year contract with Baker Sports. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Maybe I'm still unclear on what you just mentioned. So they're not going to provide any kind of discount or funds back to us based on our order volume or anything like that?
They do.
Oh, they do? And
Yeah,
that's
so,
what that forces
and that's kind of
us
what
to do.
separated Bakers from Pros. Pros offered us like a bunch of money up front, but everything was at retail price. Everything at Bakers is 40% off price,
Okay.
except for shoes, and those are 35% off. They also have their own screen printing in-house, which like now we order a lot of stuff and have to send it somewhere else to get screen printed. They can do all that for us at cost. And their factory's in Jacksonville, so I drove down and toured it, and it's pretty incredible what they do. They also own a netting company called Burbank Nets. They just purchased that, and they've done the netting at the stadium and the netting at Brunswick High's baseball field. They've already done that for us, and we had a really good experience with them. So the owner has kind of got his feet in a couple businesses, but we've had really good experience with him from those two projects. But yeah, the 40% off is pretty incredible. I mean, that's unheard of, whereas BSN, who we've worked with the last 5 years, offered 30% off. So this is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And that comes on, like, pro sports, you got no discount on uniforms. That comes on uniforms. Anything you buy, it's 40% off.
Okay. I think there were some questions Thursday when we discussed it about brand. We're changing brands or?
So we'll go from Nike to Under Armour. We don't have to do that overnight, thankfully, because that would be a huge expense. So my goal is to basically transition all of our sports over to Under Armour. But we don't have to buy Under Armour. Bakers has their own brand. I bought Glynn Academy softball jerseys last year that we bought Bakers because BSN couldn't provide enough in Nike. And we went with Bakers, and the girls love them. And they're a great product, and we save 50% off what Under Armour or Nike or Adidas can do. Most of our teams will want to wear Under Armour because the kids like that kind of gear, but we don't have to.
Options,
We have
right.
options. So we could go with Badger, which is a popular brand, or Augusta or Holloway. There's a lot of brands we can go with.
Thank
So Under Armour would be our primary brand, and Under Armour's one thing I'm excited about if this goes through is they've agreed to come in and sponsor a football game here for both of our high schools, and basically call it the Under Armour Border Wars, and they'd bring 2 teams from Florida, 2 of their schools from Florida, and they'd face Glynn and Brunswick, and we would get the home gate all 5 years plus home concessions, which is a big financial benefit for us too. So there's a lot of little things that Bakers did that was just smart business that I'd never thought of.
Yeah,
So,
thank you.
sure.
Which Nike they're kind of getting out of the high school deal anyway.
Well, it's funny. I got an email from Richmond Hill this week, and this is from Nike. I don't know why we didn't get it, but all Nike future orders for SP22, SU22, and the balance of HO21 will be canceled for all high schools. Basically, it tells you why, and it's a supply chain. Nike doesn't have it. Nike's trying to get the pros and the colleges, and they're basically cutting all high school orders, and their goal is to resume supply as soon as possible. So if you've ordered baseball uniforms and you don't have them right now, they're canceling your order. And Adidas is in the same boat. And from what I'm hearing, both of those, the reasoning is both of those are on the West Coast, and their plants are basically shut down, whereas Under Armour's in Maryland. And while they're not at full capacity, they're at least producing. Don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I'm hearing in the industry. But Nike's having a lot of trouble, and that's kind of over the last year and a half what we've seen. We've struggled to get uniforms and equipment.
Any other questions for Mr. Waters? I ask that you approve the RFP award for athletic uniforms and equipment given to Baker Sports.
So moved.
All right, moved by Dr. Yergin, second by Ms. Gibbons. Any further discussion?
What a complicated system.
Yes. All those in favor? It is unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Waters.
Thank you.
And then finally, I have Dr. Whitehead with agreement with Hanover Research.
Good evening.
Evening.
wasn't sure if there were questions about the type of work that we would be looking at with Hanover or anything in particular. I do have a copy of an action plan that was created for us actually back in May to give us consideration for the type of work we could do in that partnership, but I just don't know the level of questions you have or the information you'd like to have about why this has been brought forward. It's something that surfaced in conversations. Dr. Green has been involved in consultation with them as well, and our Curriculum and Instruction Committee has reviewed before we decided that we wanted to bring it forward as a request. So,
who would this responsibility fall on if we don't go to Hanover? Do we have specialists within our system to choose and analyze the curriculum that we choose, that we select?
I mean, ultimately, I think it will, fall on those of us here and some of the coordinators to review the data. I think part of the consideration we gave to it, we analyze our data each year, but in an effort to be transparent with our teachers who are our stakeholders in curriculum implementation, to be able to say that we're selecting it based on information from multiple sources. So they would be able to research with experts in the field, and they would also have access through doing the legwork of other districts who are implementing the same curriculum pieces to see how we compare with implementation, so that we could then look internally to say how our data compares with those systems, if they're successful with it. If we don't feel like we're meeting quite the bars when we look at our data, is it because of implementation, or is it because the curriculum isn't a match for our demographics here in Glynn County? So it would just give us access to additional information we wouldn't necessarily be able to get our hands on just working internally.
So before it was done internally?
Yes. And curriculum and instruction reviews, information before we adopt, but again, it's just being able to have that unbiased piece, versus if we're researching internally and depending on, what we're finding, if someone has a certain affinity towards a certain program, that wouldn't come into play, and our teachers would have that information that it's based on that information of somebody looking at it from the outside in.
Unfortunately, I'm not inclined to have a consulting group come in and do something that I feel like we've got people in our system that can evaluate that. I know we're not able to do comparisons on all measures, but I feel like the teachers have a good idea whether curriculum is effective in the classrooms, and I think the data shows that somewhat. I think there's some things that the data doesn't show to be able to tell effectiveness, and I just feel like it's a lot of money. I know it's renewable annually, so it's not the whole chunk that we're guaranteeing right now, but I just don't feel like we're going to get from it any more than what we could get internally.
Are they strictly analyzing our effectiveness, or are they making recommendations on curriculum too?
They would be able to, when they review our data and find out, if let's say we find out there's an implementation issue, then they would, give us that information. But if it was determined from the data that they weren't able to show that it was necessarily the most effective with our demographics, they would give us then recommendations of what would be deemed appropriate for that group of students. Not anything that we would have to follow through with or whatever, but they would give us other places to look based on the groups that we were analyzing.
You said, I think I remember, what other systems in the RESA did you say we're using it right now in our RESA?
Right now, I know that Wayne County has an active contract with them, and I think Effingham has done work with them in the past on some pieces. And it truly becomes like what you need at that point in time. So Wayne County's first project with them had to do with instructional planning, and if they were approaching instructional planning with the most effective framework. Where we have the Glynn model for effective teaching, Wayne didn't have anything like that. So they came in and worked with them to analyze what they had, went out to find best practices and then came back to them with the full scope of what they should consider including in their framework.
So one more question. I was thinking about this today. If, you know, we've been, even through the pandemic, we've been doing okay financially. I mean, I think a lot of us expected it to be a lot worse. So take CARES Act money out of it. So if there was no CARES money, would you still be recommending this program to us today? This is my other question.
I mean, it's a good question. I will say that they have come up in conversations in the past.
Sure.
And we kind of shot it down at that point because of funding. But I will also say that we are at a point that we've implemented both units of study and Eureka for a period of time now, that it would be something that I think we would have meet to actually look at content that we wouldn't necessarily have had a few years ago. But I think for us right now, the other piece that we're able to find out more so now through our MAP testing is that potential for learning loss, and if we are doing all the pieces that we need to be doing in that area.
I just remember the days when times were really good as far as the digest is concerned, and every year we were trying to figure out, I mean, every school came up with a wish list of, 50 things they want to do, and that's what got us into trouble with having too many programs at too many schools. And I'm not saying this is going to lead us in that direction again, but I'm not sure, and I don't completely agree with everybody that there's truly a neutral, anybody that's truly neutral, and that's why my question was about where they're going to recommend that we do and that we change in our system. So even though CARES Act money is still tax dollars, it's still money that could be spent somewhere else or whatever that we could save, or I don't know, we could redirect, but that's all I got.
Do we have, I know you mentioned a few things of them, of what we were going to ask them to look at or look into. Do you have a roadmap of what all we want them to take a look at, or are we just going to, I know you said curriculum, but is it the whole base, or is it just certain entities, or?
Well, in our conversations in curriculum and instruction, the units of study, which we have units of study in reading, writing, and in phonics. And so those have each come up as, an interest in, are each of those the most effective that we could be implementing at this point in time? And if our data would suggest that we're not seeing the growth we would hope to have seen, is it because of implementation, or is it because it's not a good match? And those are two really different questions. That would be the priority for the first kind of project. Eureka would be the next to follow because we can operate one project at a time. Beyond that, we have talked about looking at departmental program reviews to determine if, I think I'd mentioned, do we have overlap in duties and responsibilities in some places that are running parallel, that we could look at that to determine whether we could reduce staffing in any areas or reallocate staff to different areas to address needs that have surfaced. Because, Dr. Spence is always challenging us, if you're going to bring something to the table, what are you going to take off? And so, it's a matter of being able to look at that and say, out of the things we have, if we evaluate those things, are there pieces that we could take off of the plate as we're looking to add other pieces or to refine what we have?
So have we made attempts already to do this analysis internally?
We review our achievement data, and we're looking at those pieces. Some of the, and I think I mentioned this before as well, some of the companies that we work with for some of our interventions, we ask for correlation studies with milestones or other pieces so that we can look outside of progress within a program. Any of us that have been around for very long can tell you that if I want to look for progress in an intervention and I'm only looking at that intervention data, I'm going to see progress within just that intervention. But we want to know, is that being generalized over to grade level expectations? Achieve 3000 that we've had for a number of years, they actually completed a very thorough project for us as part of our contract with them, and as a service to show us correlation of our implementation to outcomes on milestones. And we were able to definitely see a positive effect on that. I'll be honest with you, I've asked for that same type of study multiple times through Harcourt for Read 180 and System 44, and I've yet to see outcomes. And I've actually, Mr. Halsey asked before, like, won't it be time consuming? I have spent many hours preparing the data files for them to do the same exact study that Achieve did, and we're not getting that. So, again, if I want them to come and show me progress, they're going to show me progress within that platform.
Right.
But I need to know, is that transferring outside of the program? Well, with units of study and Eureka, it's not a program that we can measure points of use, how long a student's spending in the program, all of those things, which we can capture those data points when there's software involved. We can make sure that they've had the right treatment. They've been in at the frequency that you want them to be in. And so what happens with just curriculum implementation is we would have to go back and start basing some of our classroom observations to be inclusive of a lot more information. How long did the lesson last? How long was the mini lesson? How long was guided practice? How long was small group instruction? All of those things to be able to determine all of the implementation features. And that would be something they would try to capture, would be some of that implementation data, and then pair that with what we're seeing as outcomes to say, based on your implementation, these are the outcomes that you're getting based on state expectations for each grade level.
So in order to determine levels of implementation or effectiveness of implementation, would they have consultants in the classrooms, or is that how they're going to do their work through observations?
I think they pair some of that. They definitely do survey information. They survey staff. They would get with coordinators to determine some of that information. And then, again, they would be consulting with experts in the field to say, looking even at our master schedules, how long we have allocated for each of those pieces of instruction in every school. So it would be multiple data points that they would be reviewing in consultation with experts and reviewing it in comparison with other districts that may be implementing the same pieces.
So will they have hand-on experience come in our classrooms? I think that's what Sam was asking.
Right.
They actually come in and I'll tell them to sit through a reading class to actually see how the teacher's implementing, how the students are responding.
That I don't know. If we requested it, they may come, but I think it's a matter of, their reliance on the different data points they can capture to look at it, rather than that it could be part of the project that I could get confirmation on.
One of the things I've said forever is if we're going to implement a program, that we implement a way to measure it to make sure it's going forward. If we do that, we don't need a program like this, because we're already looking at what we're doing and how it's working and if it's effective. If you look at our grades so far with everything that we're doing, we're doing okay. Financially, we're doing okay. Our scores are doing okay. Our graduation rates are doing good. Everything has been moving in the right direction. I hear what you're saying, and if I think very deeply into it where you're at, I understand that there may be a benefit, but I don't think it's worth the money for what we're currently doing, because we're not in trouble. We don't have any significant learning issues that I see, and I know that we have very good staff that, at the doctorate level and can look at these things. You have assistant principals, you got 5 of them at each high school. I mean, you can have one doing some research to make sure your stuff is working right. I just don't, I'm not comfortable. I don't think it's worth it to me. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be just way out there, but I really don't think it's worth it. So I will probably vote no for that. But
Yeah, I get this sense that, although I guess this group has been around a bit, the companies like this know that we have CARES Act money to spend, so they're really coming hard with their sales pitches to catch us when they know we have money. And I think, like John said, it's just time for us to say, we've got the money to spend, but is it something that we really need to do with this money? And could it, like Mike said, be better spent on a different form of, professional learning, or something that will benefit the kids in their learning loss or achievement, closing achievement gaps.
And I appreciate the comments. It's always something to go back and reflect and see where we can move toward. But I will say, yes, I get bombarded on a daily basis with people who are looking to do that. But my first conversations with Hanover were in 2015, and I have tried to continue some of those conversations because they continue to share different pieces of research with me. But so I will say that in that context, that's not how this surfaced. The original conversations have started a considerable time back.
And you're right, Ms. Sams, that is happening a lot.
I know.
We get
Yes.
a lot of phone calls. And to answer your question, Mr.
I get a
Halsey,
lot of
if we
emails.
didn't have CARES Act money, I would not be bringing this to you.
Well, and whether this is a fair comment or not, it's just it's a little bit about the times that we're in. But we've talked a lot about, and I've been vocal about, I feel like if we take care of some of the other issues in the classrooms and in our schools, then a lot of this other learning stuff will take care of itself. And so I would rather focus funds on how we get our students to behave appropriately in class and, and take care of that and be firm, fair, and consistent and disciplined. And so we have our schools operating where kids that want to be there can be there and learn. And so they don't have the distractions that we're seeing. And Mr. Mansell's spoken about a lot, and we're talking about, social, emotional health as well. Those two things, discipline and social emotional health right now, you've seen it in the news. You've seen some major tragedies have happened, and I think our focus needs to be on some of that self-care type stuff. And I think there's probably some great value in this, I really do, but I think, and maybe I'm just hypersensitive to it at this point, and I can see that. But those couple things I feel like need to be addressed. I feel like we've kind of let those go a little bit with regard to discipline those things too. And it's time and part of that's COVID, and part of it's being home and coming back to school, and I understand all that. But it was kind of headed down that road to start with, so I feel like we kind of refocus on that, and maybe we can focus on maybe these things take care of themselves. I think it's gonna feel like maybe the teachers, here's another, big brother or another thing I've got to do to make sure I'm getting these people what they need so they can do their research. I don't think we need to put another thing on them at this point, or you for that matter. We're looking after you. But whether that's fair or not, that's kind of how I feel about it.
Mr. Madala, you said that we're moving in the right direction, and I do believe that. I just think that, and can I evaluate programs? Yes. And Dr. Whitehead certainly can, and we have several people who can. But something like this would say, yes, you are moving in the right direction, or here's what you could do. That's just another unbiased opinion. But I certainly understand how you guys feel, and I'm not going to cry or anything if y'all don't vote for it, I promise you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we table it till the next meeting, give some people some more opportunities to take a look at it, delve into it, maybe talk to our administrators and our staff and see how they feel about it. Is that going to mess anything up as far as going? And then we could vote on it. I mean, we just found out about it Thursday. So I'd rather look at it a little bit and see what other people outside the room feel about it.
Okay.
So I'd make a motion that we table this agenda item till the next meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Mansell, second by Ms. Gibbons. Any further discussion on the matter?
I'd like to see some information from other schools that say what they've done, where they are, and then where they went. I mean, as she knows, which she kind of reflected it, you can make the data do what you want. I get it.
Right.
But there are ways to not hide the data as well. So if we could look at some decent examples and give us, something to go by and say, okay, Our Lady of the Angels in Miami, their school system went from, because of what they did. So, some concrete evidence.
Any further discussion?
I really want to say it's because you transferred out of the system. I'm not going to say that.
20-year process. All right.
Sorry.
Motion and the second to table it is on the floor. All those in favor? It is unanimous.
No, it's not.
Oh, all those opposed? To table it?
Go.
Okay. So motion passes 6-1.
And if I may ask, are there other pieces that would help you with information? I made note of Mr. Medala's request. Are there other types of information that you would like to see?
I think the responsibility or degree of responsibility to which it's going to affect our staff or teachers, you know, what
How much-
time are they gonna have to put into helping this consulting group do their work?
Okay.
Any on-site visits,
Okay.
observations?
Certainly it's not our intention to put anything else on our teachers, I can promise you.
I know that. I'm just, you know,
Well, personally, Dr. Whitehead, I'd like to know, why do we need it? I mean, just plain and simple. Just say, hey, this is why we need it, this is what it's gonna do, and this is why we feel it's important. I mean, I kinda get the feeling that, I don't know, I can't tell if you want it or you don't want it. I mean, I don't know.
it's just a hard sell too. When for years when we have instructional coaches and they do great work. I think this happens a lot though. When we first started with the instructional coach thing, they wound up doing everything but instructional coaching or whatever. You know what I mean? So until we're focused with as big as we are and as spread as we are and as many people as we have focusing on different things, until I'm fully convinced that, you know, we're utilizing those people the way they should be utilized, you know, I don't know that we need another thing to add, you know, to that. We've always, you know, been pretty giving as far as requests go, but until we can make sure that, I mean, we've got people at every level doing this kind of stuff, so why do we need another group to come in and tell us how to do it? You know, is the brass tacks of the whole thing, so.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Dr. Whitehead. All right, that brings us down to executive session. Is there any land, legal, or personnel from anyone? Legal, no land, no personnel. All right, that brings us down to number 12. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Yergin. I get a second, please.
Just a second.
You got the first and the second?
He did, he said first,
I'll
I
vote
said
for-
second.
Yeah.
Finally shows up, take care of the meeting.
Dr. Yergin has the motion, second.
Yeah, I second.
Ms.
He
Gibbons?
made the motion, right?
Okay. All right, all those in favor? It is unanimous at 6:43.